Ed, hello, happy birthday to you. How you doing?
I'm good. Today's been one of those days. It's supposed to be the luckiest day of the year according to astrology and the star stellium. So I'm kind of just happy to have that happy coincidence. I'm walking through my house to go get my coffee because I need my coffee.
Coffee is the blood of all living things. Just now, I swear, I've never been in a country where coffee's become a religion. Seriously, around the world, right? They have different breakfast rituals, but only in America has it become a religion. I swear, it's like I'm expecting temples to coffee starting up anytime
They're
now.
called Starbucks.
Good point. Yeah, I always figured Starbucks was a cult, but now I know they're a cult.
Well, all food is a cult. Food naturally lends itself to cultish behavior. Depending on how rare it is or how common it is. I mean, caffeine is the most publicly, socially acceptable addiction we have.
Yep. It's a good addiction.
Huh?
It's a good addiction.
It has a lot of things it gives it to us, yeah, and it doesn't have that much drawbacks, but it's become that sort of thing. You know, archaeologists, many hundreds of years from now, stevia, are going to probably dig up like McDonald's and Burger Kings and Wendy's and Starbucks and Caribou coffees and all of that. And I'm not sure that they're not going to look at them as temples, religious temples.
Yeah, they're going to have like huge, like those old-fashioned Greek style buildings, and you're going to have statues in the middle. You're going to have the Starbucks icon, and she's going to become the statue. And I can just see it now. Oh, hell.
I mean, I've been doing research since the COVID started, and I don't want to think about how long it's been, but in working in pagan world, I was looking up the world of advertising. And most people don't realize it, but one of the earliest commercials I ever discovered was existing, and I didn't know this, was the Heralds of Rome. People paid them to go out and do commercials for them. They would go out and screaming about, this is what's happening today, and go get your less stony bread at Christian Brothers. Bread. I mean,
shameless advertisement.
That was advertisement. I did not know that's how they supported the heralds and the announcers and the town criers, but they did it by getting paid or tips by people to spread the word.
Yeah.
And we're still doing that today. So when people go around and saying, "Oh, we do so many terrible things," advertising, we've done this always. It's just a matter of degree. So
it's all about everything in moderation. And when
here's my coffee for everybody knows.
When everything is taken to extremes, then it becomes a problem.
Mm-hmm. So you're doing a lot of great work with your shows. I'm pretty impressed by your dedication to it all. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
I love doing it. I love educating people, trying to teach real history, real content, that way people can actually start, my goal is to get people to think and to get people to make up their own minds about what they think they learn and what they're trying to understand that they're doing. It's kind of what I do. I want to give people, I want to give them the information, and then I just say, well, make up your own minds about what it is that you think moving forwards.
Mm-hmm. Well, isn't that what everybody says they're trying to do is, because we're dealing with it. You talk about a lot of different subjects and you give a lot of different thoughts on it. Yeah. But isn't it true? Isn't that what everybody tries to say? Isn't that what QAnon just said? make up your own mind.
The difference is, QAnon is, QAnon was, I mean, I could, gonna watch my words.
We can be honest.
Okay.
It's our morning show.
They used how it started was they looked online at different inspirational ways of talking, and part of their rhetoric came from Goebbels, and that was part of the rhetoric, was that they decided if they could use speech to manipulate people. Part of what I do is I don't manipulate people, I educate, right? What QAnon was set out to do is just to feed people enough BS that they believe it, that they take it to a certain point and then they wouldn't say anymore. What I try to do is I just try to leave people with questions. That way they can ask things for themselves.
I'm infamous for my questions. That's what I like to do. Questions, I question a lot. I even started a new podcast called 10 Questions podcast. So I'm going to get started there. I'm going to drag you on there too. But then all we do is we answer just 10 questions, kind of create a context. I do think that today, I do believe in something called the telecosm.
Mm-hmm.
And what telecosm in its ultimate form means infinite bandwidth times infinite memory times infinite processing. So any amount of that you have the ability to actually be functional in the world. And today we're heading into a telecosmic world where you have to be able to function
Mm-hmm.
in these sort of worlds. And I think they naturally lend themselves to all sorts of different thinking, from teaching and the strangeness to other things.
Yeah.
I do. And I think you're one of the people who've come to realize the value of that, because you have a fairly healthy online social aspect to yourself. People know you online.
Yeah. Even if I don't know, I mean, the thing is, even if I don't know them, people know me. And I always get this idea that people think I'm an influencer and all of this. I'm really not. I just
You say that. You
anyway,
don't get to.
Go ahead.
If you don't. Go ahead.
Sorry?
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Even if you don't, it's like cool, right? Or mean. You don't get to decide if you're mean. You don't get to decide if you're cool. That's other people's duties.
Yeah.
You don't get to say that you're an influencer. That's other people's jobs. You can't call yourself cool. You can call yourself cool, but it doesn't make you cool. I tell that to people all the time. It says, well, I'm not mean. It says, it's not for you to decide, too. It's not for the individual to decide if they're mean or not. It's for other people to decide around them.
Oh, 100%.
Now, does it mean you should change? No, of course not. That's ridiculous.
I refuse to change. I'm happy being me.
We believe that. So today I'm testing out the telecosm, because we're going to try different ways of wow, I just got a message across. I don't know what that is. Okay. Oh, and we'll deal with it later. That's what changes of live streaming. You're used to it. So you do a lot of live streaming, right?
Yeah.
All right. And so what is your experiences with that?
It's really hard trying to keep up. I mean, sometimes it's hard to project where people, there's the topics that people want. I just try to keep it up to date. As far as live streaming, I mean, live streaming is, I think, going to be the way forward. And there is a whole community to it. There's lots of streamers out there. Everybody has their own brand. And it's kind of cool when you see streamers coming together and it's like, I'm an expert in tarot, I'm an expert in Ouija board. And they all like come together and they build that community going. I've had a lot of good experiences, a lot of bad experiences on Zoom. That's always what happens. But I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I enjoy streaming.
And now I think the next project I'm working on, people I think misunderstand what I do. I think people really misunderstand what I've done over I was just looking at how long I've been at this, 30 years, more or less. I've been right in that 30 year, where all my markers are starting to pass the 30 years. And everybody's always thought that I was trying to build a group or kind of like a focus or a movement or, all sorts of different things. And then when I never complete that, what they see is my task, like, big groups or movements, they're like, well, you didn't do it. You didn't claim like this leadership. You didn't claim like, conquer the world attitude. And I go, no, I'm an architect. I'm a builder. And I build platforms so that other people can communicate ideas that I find more difficult to express.
Yeah. I think the thing with you is people see you as, is he just witch school? Is it daily spell? I think part of like what people see you is that they're getting to know the pagan brand, but before that they didn't know what the brand was, because we saw you here at witch school, in the Correllian tradition, we saw you pretty much everywhere. But I think now people really know who Ed the Pagan is. It's like, wow, this guy knows what he's doing. We've had the psychic fair, right? We have all these different events going on. And so I think now people are, they're really, they're more aware than you would think about who the Ed the Pagan brand is. And then they're actually looking forward to all the projects that you get involved in. It's like, oh, look, here's a new social, it's Ed the Pagan. People are like, okay, we're so down with that, right? And we start with Indiegogo, we start with all the funding. I think part of the reason why we've had a lot of success so far with Pagan World is it's tied to the Ed the Pagan brand, and people are like, holy, this is cool.
Well, that's very kind to say. I think I do. We have some great supporters. For those who don't know, go to paganworld.net for the Indiegogo campaign. As of this morning, we're $4,135 and 72 backers. Plus, we have one off-system backer that came in sponsoring. Thank you. I think people, I think that people have gotten. I've given a lot of platforms. People don't realize how many. The fact is, I have such a big platform to give to the community. I understand how the internet works in a way that I think a lot of other people don't. I see it. First of all, no such thing as privacy. Never has been. Never will be. It's literally a machine built to make a copy of a set of words, text, audios, visuals, to basically copy it and deliver it to another person, another copy. So once you understand that's the fundamental purpose of the internet, there's no privacy. It was never built for privacy.
No.
It was built for communication.
Especially when you get into streaming, right? Once you become like an online personality, then there is no privacy, because it's like, that's part of the reason why I enjoy it. It's kind of that weird macabre thing where you have no privacy, but I'm always very humble. I like to get to know people, but I know a lot of people who saw the internet or who see the internet as like, what do you mean no privacy? I'm like, well, once you're out there, you're out there. You can't just take something, once you build your first website, you're out there. People know who you are. I agree. The internet was never designed with privacy at all. That's one of the reasons why Tim Berners-Lee created the deep web, was that was going to just be for medical things. And then he thought, I need something else. And he created something public, right? I'm such a geek when it comes to that sometimes. But it's like, there is no real privacy once you're out there. Like, I'm sure Donald Lewis would say, and to everybody in the tradition would say, anybody that streams, we're very public people. Everybody knows, right, type thing. And not just online. I've been stopped twice now in Tampa, where people go, is it you, or is it you look like somebody that we know? And I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't mind it. I'm really humble. And I know a lot of people find it hard to be humble. They find it very hard. It's like, do we need to create a persona to be online? And that's the pitfall that I always tell people, no.
Well, see, I disagree with that a little bit. I think that you do put on a persona. So I believe in modualities, that we are different to different groups at all times, and that you should be conscious of how you project yourself onto the internet. Now, be authentic. So like Ed the Pagan, everybody thinks that, that's just a strange name. Why'd you call yourself that? I never named myself that. It happened back in '95 when I was calling into talk radio shows, because I love talk radio, and I had a interaction with them. And Rokon and Gary Meyer were like the biggest guys before, the right wing took over. They tried a lot of different people, and old DJs were being turned into talk shows. And a lot of them didn't make it, but one did. Rokon and Gary Meyer did a really good job. And I was calling in there and says, you calling off enough. We should give you a name or something. We should call you something. I go, okay. And this time I was talking about the bad idea of turning Halloween into Halloween only. That's a bad idea, and for lots of reasons. And I finally got a police officer who told me why. But when I went on to go explain it out to the public, they go, and we're talking to Ed the Pagan. Okay. And so I got to be known as Ed the Pagan on the 50,000 watt blower of Chicago called WLS Radio Talk Radio. And then from there, I would get my first AOL address, and they said 10 letters. Okay, Ed the Pagan, 10 letters. So it kind of stuck there. And then it really stuck to me when I went to 2000, because it was at Crossroads. It was right after the Parliament. They were asking me to speak. And Jeremiah Baker, who did Pagan Net News and a lot of other things, introduced me. He says, and straight from the Parliament, talked to us all about what the 1999 Parliament of World Religions in South Africa meant to us is Ed the Pagan. I went, oh my God, you just did that here? That's for the outside world. And not a person objected. And at that moment, what would become my cyber personality really kind of meshed there, and it's been there ever since. And I've taken great pains to make sure that I acquired the name Ed the Pagan wherever I go. I'm now on Clubhouse, and I'm Ed the Pagan on Clubhouse. So Ed the Pagan in number space. If you go to Anchor, I haven't got anything on there yet. I'm Ed the Pagan. So I cultivated that as a way to make sure that my SEO, my kind of ideology got out there, and to say I'm still there.
Yeah.
And only expanding.
The Ed the Pagan universe.
Yeah. Well, it's an architectural plan, and that's what Pagan World's all about. PaganWorld.co is all about, let's talk about Witchfox for a minute. It was a great piece. It was 20 years. It was, from 97 to 2019.
Yeah. I came from Witchfox. Witchfox eventually had many pitfalls. There were very big issues with it when it came to, it almost became too big, and then nobody was taking care of it. And the thing with Pagan World is everything's current. Everything's going to continue to be current. And I think part of the plan of it is all of the content that's going to be on there is going to be current. You've got a directory. You can find out who's who, right? You can see that we have groups. If you haven't yet, check out paganworld.co. There's a lot of groups that are forming. Everything from tarot to volunteer services. If you want to go chill out with Oberon, he's over on Pagan World. Great guy. Very funny. Interesting sense of humor, but very funny. But yeah, I mean, Witchbox started good. It was a good way to do the intro into pagan living, which is, the thing is, it got too big. And when it grew, a lot of the content wasn't being updated. I came to it in, oh, bloody hell, 2011.
So you realize, you came in at the later day Witchfox.
Yeah.
So
I came when it was kind of dimming down.
No, it was still very strong then. So Witchfox went through the same pattern a lot of websites went through. It went through the same pattern AOL went through, Yahoo did, a lot of GeoCities, MySpace. And anyone wanted to find it was this new site called Space Hay. And it's a young 18-year-old girl who just rebuilt MySpace.
Nice.
Yeah, so if you want to go try that MySpace. But each one of them basically grabs the attention of the public. And then they build on it, and they're able to monetize a little bit. The big thing about Witchfox is that they wanted to stay true to a certain pagan ethos, which was advertising free, only paid by sponsors. And they asked for $25 a year to be marked with a little sponsor tag next to your name, and that they didn't ask for renewals. You had to renew it yourself manually. And for a long time, they provided so much value because they were the social media of their time. I would like everybody else would would put that as our homepage for a long time because it gave us the news every day. What happened is that 2009, 2010, 2011, we started to see the shift beginning to Facebook. And at the same time as Facebook, and they moved on to Facebook too. And they have a page of over 450,000 people, which is just barely used, to give you an idea of how popular they were through that process. But what happened was they didn't have advertising. They didn't have a subscription service. They didn't have anything. So they were living on the goodwill of the community. And the community changed. So just like Yahoo, just like AOL, just like OneList, Yahoo groups are gone.
I miss those. No,
yeah, those were not really, right? They go, but there's kind of, so Witchfox went through the same process. And because the community did not support them in a long-term way, it isn't that Witchfox had problems. people started to ignore their duties, which was the social contract of Witch Fox. You would keep up your things. They, a lot of it was transferred over to the volunteers, right? You as an individual had a responsibility to keep your things. And if you didn't, so what? There was no punishment. It's like shopping carts. If you don't return the shopping cart to its carriage, no one's going to punish you. But it becomes a behavioral thing that you notice. And, more people leave their shopping carts. And pretty soon everybody's leaving their shopping carts out where the cars are. So the same thing happened to Witch Fox. It's too many people left their shopping carts in the middle of the field without cleaning them up, without putting them away, saying, no, this isn't good. And it became too costly. And then their base language changed. Witch School ran into the same problem. We had our base language change, and things were delinking constantly. We ended up paying, I think it's $40,000 now. We've sunk into rebuilding the site. We spent thousands let's make it note clear. We're spending thousands of dollars a month to continue to upgrade and improve Witch School. And the only reason that continues to exist is we have a good community with a lot of people subscribing.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, we'd be in big trouble. We would have gone down like Witch Fox. So they had all of these sort of ideas of principles. No advertising, no asking for subscriptions. So they were going to live basically on the goodwill of the community and on the volunteers. And they got as far as they did, 22 years, and made such a huge impact. But at the end of the day, that wasn't sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, just talking about Witch School, for people that don't know, we have content for supporting members and we have non-supporting members. The reason why we do charge here at Witch School is we provide state-of-the-art education. What we are asking is not as much as other institutions, but you get more than other institutions. On the internet, there are institutions that will charge a lot of money. I'll be honest, right? Hermeticals of the Golden Dawn is something like, what, $100 a year, kind of as membership. I have to clarify that. I think it's around there.
So
we don't even be close to that.
No,
but everything. You get mentors, you get a wealth of information. You want to learn how to write a paper? We got it at Witch School. It's I see people always getting very concerned. Do we become supporting members? And then I tell them, you get more for your money than you would anywhere else.
And we have 35 free classes, and we basically allow you to learn how to become, we make sure that it's available. People say the fee, you shouldn't charge for education. We don't charge a degree for education. You can educate yourself in any of the courses. What we pay for is access.
Yeah.
It's equivalent of access, because if not, then we would go down like Witch Fox. We would go down like Avatar Search. There's so many sites which don't get any thing. So Pagan World is a different project, though. It's really different in the one aspect of it is that over the next year, I'm expecting to want to get 1 billion impressions pushed through it.
Okay.
Right now, I do about 50 million impressions throughout the year. What do I mean by impression? An impression is when you see something, some piece of content, right, and that you interact with it in some way. It could be a like on Facebook. It could be sharing it through an email system. It could be reading the article on a blog post. All of these are considered like impressions.
Yeah.
And so Pagan World is about kind of giving the world a way to reach the pagan community. The number one way, of course, is localization. Now, over the last couple of years, I've been hearing a lot about relocalization. And Byron Ballard probably explains it the best, is the idea that we have to relocalize our communities. That the internet became, and I believe this too, that we became such a nationalized and internationalized series of people that we have our communications, that it's become harder for us to have our local events. It's harder to find. They're hard, they take more work.
Yeah.
And so that sort of thing. But now we saw in COVID, no matter how much international help you've gotten, you needed your local help. You needed help finding your doctors. You needed help finding help in your house. You need people to help you with groceries. And these are all localized events of a localized community. So Pagan World's first priority is to help localize communities again. We may be Pagan World, but we're also Pagan Jacksonville. We're also Pagan Chicago. And inside those places, you're going to be able to find ways to interrelate with them.
Tampa, Pagan World Tampa. There we go.
Pagan World Tampa, and exactly, and in Tampa, we have you, we have Tammy Griffith, we have a number of people, and that sort of thing. So relocalization, and that means more than just the jewelry shop, more than just the, it's crystal shop. We love them. The incense shop. This is where we get our starts. But grocery stores, caterers, acupuncture, medical doctors, lawyers. All of these things are that, and we should be able to find things that are favorable to us. It's not about dealing with discrimination, right? It's not dealing with discrimination that we're being discriminated against, right? It is about developing ways that we can find like mind and kindred to make it easier. So much of the older community has been fighting discrimination that now I think Pagan World is not about discrimination or fighting discrimination. It's finding ways to integrate our community and become relocalized.
Yeah. Could you talk to us about general services, right? So Joe Bloggs comes to Pagan World and wants to set up a shop as dealing in crystal readings. What kind of services can we provide? What kind of services can Pagan World provide potential sort of small businesses in a virtual concept?
So let's talk about it from a seeker's point of view. Anyone can join for free as a seeker. And that's a really important aspect. So it means everybody on Pagan World I see as a seeker. That's our basic idea. We're not followers. We're not anything. We're seekers. We're trying to find out information from lowest to highest. Then we have various categories where you can be a sponsor to make sure this continues to work. And in exchange, we provide assistance. So in that aspect, we are going to, for vendors, if you became a vendor, which means you have a service, you have a shop, you have products, you have ideas, you have things that you want to attach a financial interest in. Okay. How you make your living. I mean, there's lots of different ways. And we're hoping to have handicrafters and tradesmen and other really mainstream sort of aspects, not just the crystal salesman. But then you come on the crystal salesman, you set up your vendor shop, and you'll get a vendor profile. So you'll be able to address things. And so it'll be in our systems, be in the directory so people can find it. And we're not going to handle your finances. We're not Lynch. We're not a store, but we will drive all of that traffic to your store through your profiles so that you're making your own sales. All you pay is $100 a year, which will be from May 1st, 2021 to May 31st, 2022. It's actually 13 months of actual solid subscription. You can also then generate 15, 30-second, and 1-minute commercials, which we will then be applying through our systems. We're talking to some of the bigger pagan podcasts to buy blocks of time. We will have our own podcast, like my 10 Questions podcast. And we'll have other sorts of shows and podcasts where we can insert your information in to get there. So on Pagan World, there will be advertising, but it'll only be pagan advertisers. So that we can kind of get used to the idea of doing more of this sort of mainstream advertising. Further, if you want to do a workshop, a podcast, or Zoom, the facilities are available. You'll be able to borrow a professional Zoom room. You'll be able to, as we're broadcasting today, and what today's demonstration is all about, is the idea that we'd be able to get your message out further. Mm-hmm. Plus, we'll share in having tweet groups. We'll have different ways of sharing information. So this is where we're a social communication platform. It's not just enough to have a director, which is cool, and you can find what you need. And that's really essential, and relocalizing your community. But it's also kind of building your cyber tribe so that you have support even further out, and you have ways to helping people. And this is through a shared content mode. It's not just enough that we're all on Clubhouse, right, which is going to be the newest one. And I'm mentioning it because it's going to be a hot piece. You can only get it by invitation, only if you have an Apple phone. I got my invitation. I haven't been able to get any more. But the idea of TikTok was hot. Remember, people don't remember me screaming about TikTok a lot.
Oh, I remember that. It was TikTok is hard. I mean, I'll be honest. It's
hard.
It's incredibly difficult to, especially getting it right. You have to find the right niche, but It's better than Instagram. Instagram's just a thing. There's issue. Don't get me started on what Instagram's become, but TikTok is anybody can upload something, but if you get it just right, that will, your video could be seen around the world without
So
you.
the same one was true. If you remember me talking before, I screamed about Facebook Live. I asked people, I was begging people to do some Facebook Live and show, and your show is a result of that process. People were screaming for radio back in '93, and I bought a radio show. Yes, you could buy them back there. I paid $75 an hour to broadcast live. So everything that we've built, right? I've been kind of screaming ahead of times that we need it. I built a school because nobody had a school. There's no software for schools when I started it. We built it. Magic TV, we built it until we found YouTube. We were like one of the very first YouTubers. Pagans Tonight Radio. People will say how hot podcasting is. We were there 11, 12 years ago. So in each step of the way, I've been seeing what was happening next, and I've been trying to bring it to our community to be able to utilize it in the best aspects. And anyone you can go ahead, well, there was a better person than you in MySpace. There's a better person than you in Instagram. There was a better person to you in TikTok. Absolutely. Talent wins.
Yeah.
Talent is very important. But I don't build it for me. I'm not that entertaining. I build it for other people so that they can get their message out. And so Pagan World is about being socially communicative, being socially broadcasting, to kind of be our own stations, to kind of give our own messages.
Yes, I mean, what I was thinking of doing is because I've had a lot of people ask me to carry on doing readings, so I'm contemplating maybe doing a vendor setup on Pagan World. I have a profile there, so come find me. But I've had a lot of people carry on asking me, when will I do readings again?
Well, you did it very well. You're very good at it. And this is one of the things we'll be able to do through the vendors situation. We'll be able to work your way through it. So I think the reason so many people are not in the market is not because they're not good, not because they're not talented, not because they don't have beautiful products and everything else, is they don't know how to develop traffic.
Yeah, they don't know how to pull in. They have an idea of how to pull people in, but they don't have they have a personal idea, but they don't know how to generate traffic. A lot of people are very nervous talking online. They're nervous about, they hear all these tropes about, having your information stolen and all this. I mean, as long as you're careful, you'll be fine. But I think a lot of people find it really hard to get that to get their traffic out there because they don't have the right avenues. They just have like Facebook. Okay, well, Facebook can only take you certain distance. YouTube again it's a certain distance. What I've seen from Pagan World already is once that all of those certain distances are not a thing. You could go anywhere you want to go, and people can find you anywhere you want to, from anywhere in the world. For example, if somebody's in, I don't know, Antarctica and they're a member of Pagan World, they'll be able to find me, which is kind of cool. Wonder if we have anybody in Antarctica. That would be kind of cool to find out.
We did for a while. We have a Crystal Web piece down there.
Nice.
We had a friend over the years. I mean, over the years, my communication on the internet is about how quickly we can communicate. And you're right. People all say about individual Facebook, but that pits them. So the big thing, and everybody's having a problem, is they're being pitted against each other. Pagan marketers aren't being pitted against New Age marketers. They're being pitted against each other.
Yep.
They're not going out. And so things I've learned from like Etsy and Amazon, which I've sold on, and eBay, is that when those work in healthy cooperation, they create these larger marketplaces. Goes, oh, I need something pagan. Well, let's go to eBay. Or when I saw Etsy was doing like, oh, Etsy has a lot of that stuff on it. And so we see there's a harmony in some of these larger projects and attracting attention. And then I was an Amazon seller for a long time. I was a worm seller. And what it would be, Amazon would sell the worms and they would send me the order. I would fill it and they would pay me. So a lot of that was happening. And it was very cooperative behavior, even though there were other worm salesmen, right?
Yeah.
That there was a way for me to be in that group. Same simple. When you have a lone McDonald's on a corner, it doesn't do as well. Do you know if there's a Burger King across the street? Both shops will do better than if they were there individually. Mm-hmm. the idea of choice. You throw a Wendy's on the third corner, or multiple gas stations, or things like that. It becomes known to having that in the area, and more people are attracted to the overall. I want to eat. I don't know what I want. Let's go down to the mall. Let's look at what they've got. So the idea of shared cooperation, or they call it co-competitiveness, which means you're both competitive and cooperative, can really attract more attention.
Yeah.
And that's what Pagan World's going to do.
Yeah, and we're going to do it very well. You know, the idea that everybody's working together. For example, look at Oberon, right? He's not going, hey, Pagan World's just me. No, he needs volunteers. He needs help, right? Everybody wants to help each other. Everybody's like, hey, you're new here. Let me help you. You know, do you know how to message? Do you know how to get followers, right? Let us help you type of thing. I think that's one of the things that we do very well here at Witch School, Daily Spell Network, Pagan Noise, Magic TV, right? Is that we're very quick to help others. You know, if somebody's struggling or needing assistance, you know, we're very, first of all, if you send a message to Witch School, the official page, one of us who's always around, we're very fast to respond. Other organizations aren't, but I think this idea of cooperation sets us apart from anywhere else, because we all want others to succeed. We're not doing it to be like, I'm the bestest ever type approach. We all want everybody to succeed. I want you to succeed. I want, I don't know, Laurie to succeed at everything. How is she going to succeed? Let's help her, right?
Right.
And I think that's the spirit that we do very well as a community. It's not just a Karelian thing, it's a community thing. You know, we've
And
seen.
so I think,
go ahead.
I think that's one of the things we want to see more of, is that when you're able to relocalize, you know, Witchfox, you know, did a really good job of that very early on, and has lost its ability. People didn't notice. So the problem, let's be honest, people didn't notice Witchfox fading. They don't.
I stopped noticing. I'll be honest.
So that's a big thing. People don't know there's Wikipedia. There's all sorts of resources that have faded in exchange for our undivided attention to the social media platforms.
There
right?
was IRC many years ago when Yahoo was still a thing. And on IRC, there was a sub, I don't know, like those weird rooms. And it was something like the Witches Collective of Nebraska. That was the name. And it was like a chat room full of witches. It was kind of cool. And then they had like a Reddit forum. Oh, don't get me started on Reddit. But it's like all of these have gone because they've, you know, people didn't notice them. I think as active as you are, there's you know, you can't stop providing content. You can't, you know, like just hope that people are always going to remember you. And there's one of the things that happened with MSN groups, MSN.com, was that they just couldn't be managed. I was a sysop for MSN for a while, and I will tell you, part of the reason why those groups were shut down, that it just couldn't be managed. There was so much going on. People were like, the groups couldn't be managed, and it wasn't because of the high volume. It was just Microsoft's or the staff's software was stretched so thin that they couldn't do anything, that they couldn't control it. I remember the day that they shut down the chat rooms because I was working that day. That was kind of fun. I was in the help desk, and the way the software was all set up, we used the IRCX. So you couldn't see other chatters, but we could see everybody in the room. And it was the day that they shut down the network. And we were trying to explain to people why the network was being shut down. It was like, honestly, it just was, I mean, the generic response was it wasn't working. It got too big. But yeah, I agree. You know, the thing that makes Pagan World so cool is that we're active and we're actively
promoting. So taking all of this in consideration today, Pagan World is going to deal with that. We've already looking at AWS. We're looking at different ways to expand our information. But if we don't, it isn't enough that we all have content. We now need our content out to a common audience.
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking at. So what makes Pagan World different is that we're looking for our common audience so that you can cultivate your followers, cultivate your local community. Because you were talking about we need help in our local community. wouldn't it be nice if in your local community, I've seen it here in Jacksonville, we have a fairly large local and developed years of work community, but we share tools, we share volunteers, we share projects, not in a hostile way, but just in a way saying, cool, this is what we do. We share public rituals. They do that. So by relocalizing, you get to your resources local. By being national, you get to have the power of when things happen. Then you can actually have a more national output, or you can find help from across the thing. And one of the most important thing, and in a day that we're getting into cryptocurrency has gone crazy today.
Oh, hell yeah.
And today's such a lucky day.
And it's your birthday as well. So you got a lucky day. We've got cryptocurrency. We've got everything. Yeah. We've got pancakes.
Well, and the stellium out there, and the stellium's out there, stellium, which is the aquarium that's sort of high energy. So right now, if you go to Pagan World, you won't see much. And everybody is. I'm doing this. So everybody's asking, why am I doing it so down and dirty? Why am I letting everybody see everything? Well, at last couple of projects, everybody is always asking me, how do I do this? What am I doing? How do I do? They don't realize that I'm responsible. You yourself have probably had over the last year as many as 2 million impressions or views across your entire platform. Because you do it every day. It doesn't seem like much, but some days you hit it big, some days you hit nothing at all. But that cumulative effect has a big power on the SEO. And Pagan World is about to make sure that we're noticed in the search engines, not Amazon, that are handicrafters. I'm looking to compete with those types of editors. That not Wiccan Academy, which I even hate to mention, which is a funnel, which is a handmade funnel system. That it really is a kind of a fakey kind of school in the sense of that it doesn't have people behind it or out there. I want to be able to beat all this. I want people to know who Oberon is. Oberon's the number one person on it. But we start out very simple. Right now we're in the experimental stage, and everything will be set up by May 1st. So we're looking forward to that.
I think it's good that we're being so open, because then people can see the network building and they can say, this is, like 5 years in the future, or even next month, people can be like, hey, look at how far we've come. When I joined, that button didn't work. The smallest things, right? And I think it helps set us up for a lot of future success, because we are being open. We're saying,
right,
come meet, this is what it kind of is going to look like, but it's going to change. But we still want you to join, because we want you to come on that journey. And I think part of the, I've been doing advertisements for it. I know other content providers have been. And our goal, even though, yes, there's not a lot there. And I got somebody messaging me the other day going, well, there's nothing there. My point was, right now we're bringing you on a journey, and we want you to see the bare bones, but that bare bones is going to turn into something.
We're building. So Pagan World is going to be something different than what it was before. It's not an implied structure. It's organic. It's going to be much more organic, and it's going to be much more of an ecosystem. Because at the end of the day, Pagan World is not a destination. It's a pass-through. It is a portal. It's a movement from one side of the community to the other. I want it to be everybody's wormhole. I mean, the idea of that. If I can't find it, I want to find it. And it's not about, I want to have all the history of Pagan Worlds on my page. What I want to do is have all the milestones of pagan history, which is another big project of that. Store it, be able to use it, but then go to say, and then go to find the individual, find the groups that they're just destined from, to find other like-minded people.
Yeah.
That's why we don't have stores directly on the site. We have stores through the site. So if you're a vendor, you're going to be able to run commercials through us. You're going to be able to talk about your product. But at no level are we going to actually interfere with your process of your store. It's your store. It's independent. So.
100%, yeah.
So that's where we're at today. With that. Wow, I have a phone call coming through. We will take that in a minute.
It's not about moving forwards. And I think, the way forwards is always upwards, right?
Mm-hmm.
So much work already. And especially keeping people engaged on Facebook at the same time. Because I know you've been asking a lot of really cool questions, like what's going on with paganism and all this, which is awesome. And I think, like I said, we're always moving forwards. We're active. Nearly all of us are active on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I would say Reddit, but I don't want to have any Robin Hood jokes at the minute.
Yeah.
Uh, I kind of I knew one of them, and I will say that they're quite young. And that's all I'm going to say about Robin Hood. And that's just going to leave it alone. But I think
I have a lot to say about a lot of it. But okay, so let's talk this. So what I believe right now, today, if you're hearing this, understand the world has been disrupted.
Yes.
And we do not know how that disruption is going to play out. The way the community was before this, the festivals, 2 years of missing festivals is going to make a huge difference. 2 years of basic summer isolation is going to make a difference. The way we communicate is going to make a difference. What I'm hoping to do with Pagan World, just as I did with Witch School, just as I did with Pegasus Night, just Magic TV, the Daily Spell, and the projects you've never heard about, the Tarot College, didn't work. People don't realize I have projects that fail all the time. I've probably tried more projects that failed than most people ever try. So I'm brave. So that gives me the bravery to handle Pagan World. I mean, I'm not afraid of temporary failure.
I mean, we look at what happened with the psychic fair, and there was, I'll be honest, there was a lot of success, but at the same time, we kind of could have been 10 times better. You know, that I think it was a success in the sense that nobody had ever done a month-long psychic fair in a virtual concept. And I think the lessons that we all learn, you know, all of us working with you, is we've learned for next time, you know, the idea of
Exactly. We were successful in our duty. We carried out readings. Everybody who wanted a reading got a reading.
Yeah.
And in a very mechanical sort of way. Our penetration of the mainstream society to get those readings was not as well as we had hoped, which has given birth to the Pagan World idea that we have to spend more time all year round, not just our special days, of developing our community. We can't be just dependent on the special days. Halloween, Yule, you know, we can't be just a community of Sabbath loving people. Well, we are, and expect them to be successful when someone wants to go say, you know, I'm really feeling ill, but I really would like to talk to an herbalist as well as a doctor.
Yeah.
Because we don't have those sort of contacts on a day-to-day basis. We've lost that a little bit. We need to relocalize. We need to be able to reassert that. And what we learned from the festivals got better all year. Now we're going to build it into almost a permanent platform. So we can scale. So the big thing is we can scale and use these tools in cooperation instead of against each other.
Yeah.
People ask me, well, how long do you plan it to last? Well, I plan it to last a lifetime. Witch School's already been there. We stored so much. We actually have the largest I run along with Don in the school and everything, some of the largest archives in the world of pagan information. We have over 10,000 hours of materials. And you want to know something? I think Pagan World's going to match it within a year.
I would say half. I
think it's going to take a little time to build up.
I'm going to be brave and say Pagan World is going to literally take off like never.
And today it doesn't look like much, but this is the day that you get your input. This is the day you get to see where our little telecosm part of the universe, which is our bandwidth, which is our memory system. We've got plenty of memory and our processing power. Now we're just needing human execution. So if you know WordPerfect, we're adding people to our WordPress team.
Yeah, I'm already up for it. I love WordPress. I know, I'm such a geek.
Do you know WordPress? Oh, good. That's good to know.
So I'm happy to help.
Yeah.
And so again, if people are watching this, I really encourage you, if you are good with anything techie, we want you to join Pagan World, right? We need your support. I need your support. Ed needs your support. The universe needs your support. So please consider joining. What you get out of it is what you put into it. And I encourage, get creative. If you've ever wanted to be a part of something of a global concept, this is your time. It really is. We talk about the stars being in alignment. Well, they really are today. So spend some time today, join us throughout the day, but get
Yeah.
involved in the world. We need people who are good, boots on the ground. That's what I was looking for. We need, as Ed was saying, if you're good at WordPress, please reach out to Ed Hubbard right here, or message him, annoy him, email him, teleport to him. He needs your help. If you are a vendor, if you are somebody from the pagan community who's not joined the directory, come join us. Yes, we know it's bare bones right now, but we're building it and we want you to be part of that. But I encourage people who are techie, if you know what you're doing, WordPress, if you know how to really assist Ed and change the world as we see it, then please consider reaching out. I can't stress that enough. What do you get out of it? Well, the satisfaction of changing the world for pagans. That's probably what I'd say.
Absolutely. And today we're at 220 souls that have decided to do so. 72 people who have pledged, $4,135 to help us get going. And I think the thing that I'm hoping we want to get by the 22nd to about $10,000, which will then allow us to be able to guarantee some of the better services and things like that. Because it isn't a matter of if we're going to build them. It's a matter of the velocity at which we build. And that's going to be the important part. And there's going to be around 20 years from now. All I can tell you is that I've been around here for a while and we've been doing this sort of thing. You've been at this 4 years now.
Seems like yesterday.
Oh, there's days it does and days it doesn't. I always joke about that. There's some days it feels like it is and isn't. But if anyone really, like I said, wants to know what I'm trying to do, is that eventually I want to make sure that at all times our community has access to all the tools it can get so they can continue to communicate in order to preserve our way of thinking. I mean, there are a lot of problems coming up, and I'm not dwelling on them, like climate change. And there's ways our community can survive, not just today, but for the long future, which is what I'm really dedicated to, is the long future. And
the long game, the end result.
Simon Sinek, a while ago, most people don't know I'm a game theorist. I love games. I actually believe the world is more game than people realize. It's a game in a lot of ways. And some people play it as a game, it's heartless. Some people play a game that. And there's the idea of the finite game. And most people live their lives in a very finite way. And the idea is the American dream is that you go to school, task done. Get married, task done. Buy a house, task done. Have children, task done. Right? Work your job, task done. Children graduate school and they go off to their version of it, task done. You finish your job and get your gold watch, task done. Then you retire, task done. Your life is being trained. You're being trained that you have a finite life.
Yeah.
And that's not true. I believe in the infinite game. And an infinite game is I can enter at any time and leave any time of the game. Dungeons and Dragons has an aspect of that. Taught me at a very young age. It's an infinite game if you want it to be, or you can be finite if you want it to be. So our community is an infinite game, even though we all look at it very finite. My group, my local group, my temple, my space, our temple, our time. If you really look at it, it's an infinite game in the sense of what you're doing is setting it up so that other people can play the game of being good citizens. And the hope is that we find a sort of perfection, a sort of love in our stuff.
Yeah.
That we continue to find ways to increase the quality of life overall for generations to come. That's what we're really doing now. Pagan World is really about establishing that next level of the pagan community.
The next generation, people that are going to carry the torch long after we're gone, because Pagan World's always going to be there in whatever form it's going to be in. Right now, it's just in the infant stage, but it's always going to be.
And it's an infant stage, even in an evolutionary standpoint, because we're not going to slow these machines down. We're not going to slow down the internet. We're not going to see all this. Even though people talk about it, we're not slowing it down. It's not going to change. So you can, and I get a lot of people arguing me that if these good ideas are good or bad. Is it good we're going internet? Are we bad we're going internet? And I tell them the same thing. It's not my duty to say if it's good or bad. I just have to accept what is.
I mean, this question I've seen on Facebook so much is people suddenly see the internet as threatening to pagans. My response is no. What's threatening to pagans right now, I mean, if I'm going to be honest, is that we're not able to be in person physically, right? And a lot of people live in different areas of the world. The internet hasn't damaged paganism. In fact, it's made us more connected and more unified, right? Look at the incident that happened in DC where somebody said, oh, look, it's a shaman. And all of us in the community were very quick to actually defend contemporary shamanism and say, yeah, no, that's not a shaman. That's
No,
some, you know.
no,
And
I was very fortunate. Marianne K. People handed me information that I handed back out to the world, but they caught him actually in the middle of a Christian prayer. The QAnon shaman, he was as sincere a Christian minister as anyone.
yeah, but again, we're very quick in defending what we believe to be true. And but when anybody says, it's bad that paganism's coming on, the answer is no. I think it's better because the real information's out there. If you want to know what it's like to be a real shaman, well, there are people out there online that will be able to help you. And Pagan World most definitely is going to be one of those places because of the directory. You can find anything you want. The only downside to the internet as far as paganism, the only downside really would be what happens when COVID's done. And that's something we can't answer yet because COVID's not done yet.
But Pagan World is an answer to it. It is a direct answer to it. Right now, spend the next couple of months building with me so that when we come out of COVID, you'll be able to find the resources that you need. Actually, Pagan World is a direct response of the world that's going to come, in the sense that we'll have the internet connections, we'll be able to continue to spread, but at the same time, you'll be able to relocalize. You'll be able to find your local things. So I absolutely believe that Pagan World is a direct answer to the post-COVID world.
Oh, yeah.
In the sense of that you will be able to find what you need locally wherever you're out in the world. And the truth is, if you're visiting Manila, Philippines, which Rolando, hi Rolando, you can go on there, and if you suddenly needed a sage, you probably find it
right there, right at your fingertips.
Right. And maybe Tokyo, or maybe it'll be South Africa, or maybe Chicago, or maybe Jacksonville. But when you go to look for that community, and I see people ask me what would I like to see. I would like to see pagan tourism out of Pagan World in a year or two.
We could do that. Why not? Nothing's stopping us. It's the idea of, we talk about in the Corellian tradition, we have Danville, we have Jacksonville. So why not do pagan tourism? Why not have people come and visit the temples, get to know Chosen Path, or Selena Fox, get to know her, try to do a special event with her. I know she would probably love that. But
she is such an internet warrior online. So if you haven't followed Selena Fox, you should go ahead and look at Selena Fox.
And please check out her videos on Facebook because she does a lot of really cool videos and she's got a wealth of knowledge. But it would be kind of cool. You could do like pagan tourism. You could say, well, people have always asked, well, what's Circle Sanctuary? Well, pagan tourism's it. This is where Circle Sanctuary is.
And cyber tourism, things like that. So it really is. So Pagan World is really the idea of consolidating our imagination into practical usage of communication.
Making it manifest.
And today is a special day for that. Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, and happy birthday to you. I know we're going to be talking again tonight, but we've got a very big celebration coming up this evening.
Yeah, 7 p.m., kind of the same spaces.
I must say, speaker of magic, I saw that on Pagan World. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to keep that because I love that.
What's that?
Where you in the brackets where you put Reverend Wolf and you put speaker of magic, I might just adopt. You've got Ed the Pagan. I'm going to keep that as my tag.
Speaker of magic.
I like that one. I really do. I
like those sort of things. I love phrases. I love the way we talk. I think words are regenerative. We generate our world out of what we speak.
Oh, heck yes. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. I will look forward to seeing you at tonight at 7 p.m. It's going to be fun. It is.
It is, and it's and then thank you so much for do all that you do. You made a lot of things out there. Keep your good work up, and find out and look him up. Paganworld.co. A chance to be one of the very first friends and followers of Ravenwolf, and he's going to be starting on. He's always going to be there. He's a great presence, but starting on February 19th,
Yeah.
we're going to start a year-long process of mediumship. But go out and check it out there. You can get involved right now.
And you get to join me as I take you on on a year-long journey into what I do.
It is a life journey. It'll be, they don't realize it. It'll end up being a life, but it'll give a finite amount of things. And I think that's one thing that I think Pagan World is going to give us a lot of ability to do. So blessed be everyone.
Blessed be.
And away we go.